Volkswagen's Passat Alltrack isn't the first SUV-style, family-sized 4x4 estate we've seen, but it could well be the one that strikes the most appealing balance for many buyers who don't need, and probably don't want, a traditional compact Freelander or RAV4 style SUV. It has the quality look and feel of something premium and much more expensive, blended with an extra dose of subtlety that'll suit potential buyers. Plus, it'll be as good off-road as you'll need it to be. In other words, it ticks a lot of boxes. There's something rather unnerving about realising that marketeers have your number. After all, we like to think of ourselves as free spirits, people unlikely to be pigeonholed by products. But then sometimes a car comes along where you realise that the designers have been explicitly targeting people like you. They know where you shop, they understand how you like to spend your free time, they have a pretty good fix on what you do for a living and what other products you'll be attracted to. Don't try to fight it, these people are cleverer than us, and these people have bought us cars like this one, Volkswagen's Passat Alltrack. If I wanted to know what an Alltrack owner looked like, I've only to look in the mirror. Mountain bikes, skis and karting equipment to move about, mid-40s, has a decent job, maybe fights a little shy of the blingier brands. Someone who probably wouldn't previously have been attracted to a Passat estate. But then this one isn't quite as we know it. The ride height is a touch higher, the bodywork a touch showier. To tweak the lifestyle appeal, a small but crucial click towards more outdoorsy hunting, shooting, fishing, heck, maybe even jet skiing folk. People who would usually need to buy a fully fledged SUV off-roader, all the while gritting their teeth against a perceived social backlash from eco-friendly neighbours. By fitting this car with 4Motion four-wheel drive and giving it a degree of light off-roading prowess, Volkswagen claims to have ensured that they don't have to. So it's a plush, family-sized, SUV-flavoured four-wheel drive estate. Something we've seen before, of course, but not quite like this. Wolfsburg claims to have bought us a car of this kind that bridges the gap between affordable but less premium models of this sort from Skoda and Subaru and the more desirable but much pricier ones from Audi and Volvo. A place you'd think quite a number of buyers would like to be. Let's try it. Now, you'll be familiar by now with the usual mantra from SUV makers that the model in question drives just like an ordinary car. Well, of course it does. Look beneath the bodywork and you'll find that in most cases it is just an ordinary car. The conventional underpinnings disguised by chunky, outdoorsy SUV-style bodywork that doesn't normally give you much SUV-style prowess. It's an approach that many will see as a tiresome pretense and one that potential Passat Alltrack buyers will have little time for. So, instead of buying a car that will make an unwelcome visual statement conferring almost no practical benefit, they'll see in the purchase of this Volkswagen a much more sensible, subtle option that on the few times they do venture onto the rough stuff will be just as capable as almost any soft roader. One thing they might expect to miss in choosing a car of this kind over a plush, compact SUV like Land Rover's Freelander, Honda CR-V or Volkswagen's own Tiguan is the desirable raised driving position that's common to SUV 4x4s of this kind. But even that doesn't seem to be so much of an issue here. For a start, soft roaders don't ride as high as they used to thanks to an ever-pervading pursuit of ever-improving driving dynamics. And in any case, this Passat Alltrack estate rides 30mm higher than the two-wheel drive model on which it's based. Which isn't enough, you'll be pleased to hear, to spoil the solid, comfortable, undemanding driving experience that a Passat has always offered. One that you can choose to sharpen up by specifying the optional ACC adaptive chassis control system that allows you to tweak suspension from soft to hard to suit the road that you're on and the mood that you're in. Now, few Passat Alltrack owners will bother with this feature, content instead to waft along on the easy wave of torque offered by the couple of 2-litre TDI diesel engines on offer, either a 140 PS version mated to a 6-speed manual gearbox, or the car I'm trying here with 177 PS that's allied to a 6-speed DSG automatic transmission. Now, both had plenty of pulling power, with the lower powered model offering 320 Newton meters, a figure that rises to 350 Newton meters with this higher powered model, and makes possible a braked towing capacity of 2,000 kilograms. That's 200 kilograms higher than a normal two-wheel drive Volkswagen Passat estate. Towing that's aided, incidentally, by a clever anti-snaking stability system. Around 60% of Passat Alltrack buyers will go for the entry-level TDI 140 model, which makes rest to 62 miles an hour in 10.3 seconds on the way to a top speed of 123 miles an hour. All the while perhaps secretly wishing that extra funds had been available to stretch to the TDI 177 variant that I'm trying here, which manages rest to 62 miles an hour in 8.9 seconds on the way to a top speed of 131 miles an hour. Both units have been much refined in recent times, and much of whatever rumble remains is further disguised by thick side window glass and a 5-layered acoustic windscreen. The result is an uncommonly refined cabin experience, but that you'd expect from a Passat. Much more surprising will be the way that, should the occasion demand it, you can really throw this car into bends. Now, the inevitable body roll that you'll always get with a vehicle this large will mean that you won't want to be doing that too often. But at least when you do, the turn-in is very sharp thanks to a clever XDS electronic differential lock that lightly brakes the inside-driven front wheel during a sharp turn, restoring traction and firing you on to the next bend, perfectly complementing the standard 4Motion four-wheel drive system. Oh yes, 4Motion. I was getting to that. Further up the Volkswagen lineup, on models like the big Touareg luxury SUV, it designates a heavy, capable, geared setup. But lower down the order, on cars less likely to be taken on the Serengeti, it designates a simpler, but still very well proven, lighter Haldex clutch setup. One that pushes power to the front wheels for 90% of the time, but within a fraction of a second, should traction conditions demand it, can transfer up to 100% of torque of power to the rear axle. Perfect for a snowy snap, and actually enough for a surprising amount of more arduous work. Not too much, mind you, though, as I mentioned earlier, ground clearance is up from 135 to 165 millimeters. You're still going to be giving the standard metal engine underbody protection plate quite a hammering if you venture too far from the golf course. But should you find yourself somewhere that you probably shouldn't have gone in the first place with your Passat Alltrack, you'll be glad of the off-road setting, activated by this button down here by the gear stick. In one hit, doing so tweaks the brakes and the throttle for more sensitive off-road use. It tweaks appropriately the shift pattern of the DSG automatic gearbox should you have it, and it eases the pulsing nature of the anti-lock braking system so that on loose surfaces like gravel or snow, a wedge of road substrate is formed in front of the tyres to help decelerate the vehicle more effectively. Most importantly, the off-road setting also activates a hill descent assist system, able to ease you down slippery, sharp slopes, at the bottom of which you'll be thankful for the improved departure angle of 13.6 degrees. Compared with an ordinary Passat estate, not, it's true, much of an off-road benchmark, there's also an improved approach angle of 16 degrees and an improved ramp breakover angle, which is important when cresting the top of a slope, of 12.8 degrees. Now, if you don't take any of this too literally, you'll end up with a very highly capable piece of family transport. Now, the whole idea of a car like this is that you should look at it and note that something about it has changed, but not quite be able to put your finger on what. In other words, the changes made to edge this model towards the more lifestyle-orientated outdoorsy set need to be subtle, and here they are. Look a little closer and you might notice the increased ride height, but you're more likely to clock body enhancements supposed to give you a little extra protection during light off-road work. Though since these are mostly made from plastic, I wouldn't get your hopes up too high on that score. Still, the underbody protection panels, front and rear, are certainly fashioned from very nice plastic, and where it matters, the engine underbody protection panel is crafted from thick, tough steel. Other enhancements include these matte chromed roof rails. You've also got more chrome around the windows, plus the exhaust tailpipe. You've got a smarter grille, Alltrack specific door sill plates, and these chromed wing mirror outer casings. And inside, well, apart from the Alltrack logo emblazoned on the ashtray, this is pretty much standard 7th generation Passat through and through. If you haven't tried one of those, then you may not yet have cottoned on to the fact that on the quiet, and it is very quiet, that this has become a genuinely desirable way to travel. Get inside and shut the door too sharply, and you can actually feel the pressure change in your ears. And though the fixtures and fittings may seem little different from older Passats you might remember, they have actually all been carefully recrafted with revised switchgear that includes this classy analogue clock. Other smart features borrowed from Volkswagen's £50,000 Phaeton saloon include plush door trims and seat coverings, along with subtle ambient lighting. The result is an ambience in the cabin that may not be the last word in design flair, but as a day-to-day experience, feels very nice indeed. All very nice, but this car must also serve as practical family transport. How does it stack up against the tape measure? Well, back here, though 3 adults might be a little squashed on longer journeys, blame this rather hefty central transmission tunnel, 2 people will be very comfortable with ample levels of leg, shoulder and headroom, even if the backrests are a little upright. Out back, the tailgate opens to a height of over 2 metres to reveal the expected large boot space, 523 litres up to window level. That's 20% bigger than that of a rival Audi A4 Allroad, or indeed Volkswagen's identically engined Tiguan small SUV. Now, it's a practical load space too. It's got a notably low sill height for you to lug your family's kit over, and there's a ski hatch for longer items. You can vastly extend the space by flipping forward the 60-40 split folding rear backrest using these useful side cargo area levers. And once you do, you'll find yourself with a 1,731 litres of total luggage room in a luggage bay that's, well, almost 2 metres in length. You can also install load net partitions behind the first or second row of seats to ensure that cargo doesn't shift on the move into the passenger compartment. And so to pricing. You'll pay somewhere between £29,000 and £32,000 for your Passat Alltrack, with the entry-level 2-litre TDI 140 variant commanding the lower figure, and this 2-litre TDI 177 PS model, the higher one. Now, you're looking basically at a premium of about £3,000 to own an Alltrack as compared to a conventional, similarly spec 2-wheel drive Passat estate with the same engine and gearbox combination. Now, whether you see that as good value will really depend on your perspective and your perceptions of the prestige connotations of the Volkswagen badge, which will be tested by the news that if you're looking at the 2-litre TDI 177 model that I've got here, then an Audi A4 Allroad with exactly the same engine could be yours for pretty much the same amount. But that car isn't as well equipped and has a boot that's 20% smaller. Your call. Anyway, if we're going to look at things that way, there are all kinds of other potentially comparable Volkswagen Group options that share the same underpinnings. For example, if you're looking at an entry-level 2-litre TDI 140 version of this Alltrack, then you'll find much the same mechanicals in an escape off-road orientated version of Volkswagen's Tiguan soft roader, which with exactly the same engine and off-road settings can be yours for a couple of thousand less. But I need to stop myself there. After all, the whole point of the Alltrack in concept is that it's different to an SUV style soft roader or a top Qashqai type crossover potential rival. The idea with this vehicle is to appeal to someone who doesn't want the showiness of an SUV or a crossover, but still needs a modicum of light off-road prowess. It's a concept the Volkswagen Group seems rather keen on. As well as the Audi A4 Allroad I mentioned earlier, even its budget Skoda brand has an entrant in this little niche in the form of an all-wheel drive version of its superb estate, christened the Outdoor. Now, that has exactly the same 2-litre TDI 140 engine as this car, and in that form costs pretty much the same amount of money, which might surprise those who criticise this Passat Alltrack at launch for being a little pricey. In fact, Volkswagen's merely priced this car to its market. For proof, I'd point to the fact that the 2-litre TDI 140 Alltrack is priced pretty much comparably to rivals like the Subaru Outback 2-litre D 150 PS or the Vauxhall Insignia Sports Tourer SRI 2-litre CDTI 160 PS 4x4. Both of those cars are priced pretty similarly to a TDI 140 Alltrack, which means just under £30,000. And against the pokier 2-litre TDI 177 PS engine that I've been driving here, well, it's true that a less muddily capable Skoda Superb Outdoor model fitted with pretty much the same engine would save you a bit, but then it would, because that car has a manual gearbox, whereas this one has a standard fit 6-speed DSG automatic. Otherwise, pricing for this variant is aimed directly at similarly powerful SUV flavoured estates that many will see as being less desirable. Cars like Vauxhall's Insignia Sports Tourer Biturbo 4x4 or the hybrid Peugeot 508 RXH. Which means that if you can bring yourself to ignore the fact that a plush compact SUV like Audi's Q5 fitted with exactly the same engine as this one will cost you about the same amount, then you can sign a cheque for this Passat Alltrack, safe in the knowledge that you're not paying over the odds. And that you're getting a very well-equipped piece of family transport indeed. Standard equipment for the single trim level on offer runs to 18-inch alloy wheels, front fog lights with a static cornering function, chromed roof rails, heat insulating tinted glass, front and rear parking sensors, Alcantara upholstery, a rear seat ski hatch, 2-zone climate control that also cools the glove box, cruise control, Bluetooth phone preparation. You've got a touchscreen colour satellite navigation system, a decent quality 8-speaker CD stereo setup with an SD card reader, a DAB digital radio, and it's iPod compatible, plus there are controls for it on the leather trimmed 3-spoke steering wheel, and you've also got a hill holder clutch that'll stop you drifting backwards on uphill junctions. Tempting options include a park assist system that will help you identify, then automatically steer you into the tightest space, a huge panoramic glass roof, bi-xenon headlamps, leather electrically operated climate controlled seats, integrated child seats, ambient lighting, a rear parking camera, and a thumping 10-channel 600-watt Dynaudio sound system. As for safety stuff, as well as the usual Isofix child seat fastenings and anti-whiplash head restraints, there are the expected twin front, side and curtain airbags and optional rear side bags, as well as the normal electronic assistance features for braking, traction and stability control. The ABS features brake assist to help in emergency stops, and the ESP will feature a clever anti-snake system for stability if you should be fitting your Passat with a tow bar. And it doesn't stop there. Tyre pressure monitoring is also included, as well as a driver alert system that will monitor your reactions for drowsiness and prompt you to stop for a restorative coffee should the electronics suggest a bit of drowsiness in your reactions. Going further requires an inevitably expensive trip through the options list. You might want to consider high beam assist, which automatically dips your main beam at night in the face of oncoming traffic. Or side scan lane change assist, which stops you from dangerously pulling out to overtake when there's another vehicle in your blind spot. Or the lane assist package that stops the dozy drivers from veering out of their lanes on the highway, and also includes a traffic speed sign recognition camera mounted in the windscreen that pictures speed limit signs as you pass them and displays them on the dash. The same kind of camera is used for an automatic distance control feature, which is basically a cruise control setup that automatically keeps you a safe distance from the car in front on the highway. And it's the same kind of technology that you'll find in city emergency braking, where a radar is constantly scanning the road ahead for potential collision hazards. If one is detected, the driver will be warned and the brakes will be primed. If he or she doesn't respond or isn't able to, then braking will be applied to reduce the severity of any resulting accident. Like virtually all Volkswagen diesel models these days, this one benefits from the brand's Blue Motion technology suite of eco tweaks that include brake energy regeneration to reclaim energy that would otherwise be lost under braking, a stop-start system that cuts the engine when you don't need it, stuck at the lights or waiting in traffic, and there's also a gear shift indicator to help you get somewhere near to the quoted consumption figures on a day-to-day basis. As a result of all this, the Passat Alltrack is able to return a pretty frugal set of running cost figures that aren't markedly different to those of an ordinary two-wheel drive Passat estate, thanks to the fact that for 90% of the time this car will probably be just running in two-wheel drive anyway. These are maximised inevitably by the entry-level lower-powered TDI 140 manual gearbox model, which manages 49.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and puts out a CO2 return of 149 grams per kilometre. Mind you, this 2-litre TDI 177 PS version manages to get remarkably close to that, despite its inclusion of an automatic gearbox, managing 47.9 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 155 grams per kilometre of CO2. Now, in this, it's helped to a great degree by the DSG Auto Gearbox's inclusion of a coasting function that is able to literally disconnect the engine when you're coasting, when you're going on the motorway and your foot's off the throttle. Now, that'll stay in freewheeling mode until you dab the throttle or the brake again. It's a feature that takes a little time to get used to if you're one of those that regulates your speed on the motorway using engine braking, but at least you can disconnect this feature, turn it off if you don't like it. Servicing costs can be kept in check through a choice of either fixed or flexible servicing regimes, depending on whether your annual mileage is low or high. Insurance groupings are 21 for the entry-level TDI 140 or 24 for this TDI 177 PS model. And residuals, well, depreciation will depend at least to some extent on how well you can resist the temptation to go for pricey options that won't pay for themselves back come resale time. But if the ordinary Passat estate is anything to go by, this Alltrack model should be a pretty safe place to put your money. We've had four-wheel drive Passats in the UK since 2001, but they've been a rare sight. This Alltrack, though, deserves wider acceptance. It's the car that so many buyers of compact soft-roaders should be looking at, but probably aren't. Less extrovert than Freelanders, CRVs and the like, but in truth, probably better suited to their owners' needs, provided that those don't include anything too extreme on the rough stuff. This, indeed, is a car perfectly suited to those who don't believe in going to extremes, in buying something suitable for the Amazon when all they really need is something that'll guarantee to get the kids to school in a snowy snap. In short, this is the most complete expression of pragmatic Passat motoring since this model was first launched way back in 1973. and an SUV style 4x4 estate that gives you most of the quality and cred of an Audi Allroad for not much more than the price of a comparable Skoda or Subaru. A car, in other words, that the marketeers have thoroughly thought through, just as you'd expect from a Volkswagen.